Have you ever wondered about the lives of those who quietly keep our world running? The unseen hands that polish our desks, empty our bins, and ensure the spaces we inhabit are clean and ready for the next day. This is the story of Claire, and she's about to show you that even the most ordinary life holds extraordinary potential. Get ready to have your perspective shifted, because what Claire uncovers might just change the way you see the world and yourself forever. Claire's day began before the sun fully stretched its golden fingers across the city skyline. The familiar hum of the early morning bus, almost empty, save for a few bleary-eyed commuters, was her soundtrack. She knew every bump in the road, every flickering streetlight on the route to Apex Corp. It was a routine she'd perfected, a comforting rhythm in a life that otherwise felt muted. Apex Corp was a glass and steel behemoth, a monument to ambition and success. Claire entered through the service entrance, a world away from the gleaming lobby where deals were made and fortunes were forged. Here, in the quiet corridors before the workday began, she felt a strange sense of ownership. These were her spaces, and she took pride in making them shine. She started on the 17th floor, the executive suites. The air always felt different up here, charged with an unspoken energy. She dusted mahogany desks, polished chrome fixtures, and emptied overflowing wastepaper baskets filled with crumpled memos and discarded ideas. She rarely saw anyone. The executives arrived later, their briefcases heavy, their faces serious. They were a world away from her. Claire found small joys in the details, the way the morning light caught the dust motes dancing in the air, the scent of lemon-scented cleaner, the satisfying swish of the mop across the polished floor. She arranged pens in neat rows, straightened picture frames, and ensured every surface was spotless. It was a simple act of creation, a small way to leave her mark on the world. Sometimes she'd find a forgotten coffee mug, a misplaced photograph, a stray pen. These small remnants of other people's lives offered fleeting glimpses into their worlds. She imagined the stories behind them, the pressures and triumphs, the quiet moments of reflection. But beneath the contentment, a subtle dissatisfaction simmered, a yearning for something more, something beyond the endless cycle of cleaning and polishing, a feeling that she, too, deserved to be seen, to be heard, to be valued. She was invisible, a ghost gliding through the halls of power. One morning, as she was emptying the trash can in the CEO's office, she noticed a crumpled piece of paper. It was half-torn, and most of it was obscured, but she could make out a few words. Performance review, downsizing, restructure. A chill ran down her spine. She quickly discarded the paper, trying to dismiss it as just another meaningless scrap. But the words lingered in her mind, a seed of unease planted in the fertile ground of her quiet discontent. Something was stirring at Apex Corp, something that threatened to disrupt the fragile equilibrium of her world. And Claire, the unseen cleaner, was about to find herself caught in the middle of it all. Each morning Claire found solace in the pre-dawn quiet of Apex Corp. The rhythmic squeak of her cleaning cart was a familiar song as she moved through the deserted hallways, a brief moment of peace before the corporate machine roared to life. She arranged pens, straightened frames, ensuring every surface gleamed. These small acts of care were her signature, a quiet assertion of her presence. Sometimes, amidst the discarded remnants of executive life, a forgotten coffee cup, a misplaced photo, she caught glimpses of their world, brief snapshots of triumphs and failures, pressures and quiet reflections. Yet a persistent longing tugged at her, a desire to be more than just a silent observer, a yearning to be acknowledged, to matter. Then came the morning in the CEO's office. The discarded paper bearing the chilling words, performance review, downsizing, restructure, sent a shiver down her spine. It was a discordant note in her otherwise predictable routine, planting a seed of apprehension. The world tilted. Claire stared at the HR representative, Ms. Davies, her face a mask of professional sympathy. Claire Thompson, effective immediately, your employment with Apex Corp is terminated. The words hung in the air, heavy and incomprehensible. Terminated, like a bad dream. A cold dread crept up her spine, a chilling premonition of what was to come. But why? Claire managed, her voice barely a whisper. Ms. Davies cleared her throat. There's been an incident. Company equipment. Sabotage. The investigation pointed to you. Sabotage? Claire's mind reeled. This was insane. She, Claire, who meticulously cleaned and cared for this building, who treated even the office plants with gentle respect, was being accused of sabotage. It was ludicrous. That's impossible. I would never. The words tumbled out, A desperate plea against an invisible wall. I understand this is difficult, Claire, but the evidence is compelling. Miss Davies's voice was smooth, practiced. She offered a thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. Security. The word echoed in Claire's ears. Escorted, like a criminal. Her hands trembled as she gathered her meager possessions. A worn photo of her late mother, a small succulent she'd rescued from a discarded pot, a well-loved thermos. Each item felt like a weight, a physical manifestation of the injustice she was experiencing. As the security guard, a burly man named Frank, whom she'd often seen smiling and joking, led her through the office. She felt the eyes of her colleagues boring into her. Whispers followed her like a dark cloud. Humiliation washed over her in waves. Faces that once held friendly nods now held suspicion, pity, or worse, outright condemnation. She passed her supervisor's office. Mr. Henderson, a man who had always seemed kind and approachable, avoided her gaze, his face a study in discomfort. Claire wanted to scream, to explain, to defend herself, but the words caught in her throat. Choked by the overwhelming sense of disbelief and betrayal, the elevator ride down felt like an eternity. She stared at her reflection in the polished steel, barely recognizing the pale, hollow-eyed woman staring back. Who was she now? Not Claire Thompson, diligent employee. No, she was Claire Thompson, the suspected saboteur, the outcast. Outside the city seemed to mock her with its vibrant energy, its relentless forward motion. People rushed by, oblivious to the earthquake that had just shattered her world. Fear, a tangible presence, coiled in her stomach, whispering insidious doubts. How would she manage rent? Explain this to friends? Could she ever clear her name with such damning evidence? Standing on the sidewalk, clutching her small box of belongings, Claire felt utterly adrift. The injustice burned within her, fueled by shock, despair, and a desperate need to prove her innocence. She would not be defined by this. She had to fight. But how? Where to begin? A memory sparked. Arthur Bellwether, a retired investigative journalist from her building, always boasting a keen nose for trouble. Maybe he could help. A tiny ember of hope flickered in the darkness. A long shot, but all she had. She would find Arthur Bellwether, tell him everything. Together they would find the truth. Sarah felt her heart racing as she approached the old wooden door of Arthur Bellwether's apartment. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the chipped paint. Could she really trust a stranger, even one who lived in her building? Doubt gnawed at her. What if she was wrong? What if Arthur couldn't help? She almost turned back, ready to retreat to the safety of her own apartment, to lick her wounds in private. The fear of further humiliation was almost unbearable. Apex Corp had taken everything from her. Her job, her reputation, her peace of mind. What more could they take? Taking a deep breath, she knocked. The sound echoed in the quiet hallway. A moment later, the door creaked open, revealing Arthur, a man with kind eyes and a warm smile that crinkled the corners of his face. "Claire, isn't it? What a pleasant surprise. Come in, come in." He ushered her inside, his voice gentle and reassuring. His apartment was cluttered but cozy, filled with books and newspapers stacked high. A half-finished cup of coffee sat on a table next to a worn-out typewriter. It felt like a haven, a world away from the sterile corporate environment she had just left. "So, what brings you here, Claire?" Arthur asked, gesturing for her to sit on a comfortable armchair. She hesitated, unsure how to begin. The words caught in her throat. I was fired today, Arthur," she finally managed to say, her voice trembling. Arthur's expression turned serious. "Fired? What happened?" Claire poured out her story, the words tumbling out in a rush of anger, apprehension, and disbelief. She told him about the sabotage accusations, the humiliation, the crushing injustice. As she spoke, she saw a flicker of recognition in Arthur's eyes, a spark of the old investigative journalist. When she finished, Arthur was silent for a moment, his brow furrowed in thought. "Sabotage, you say, and they offered no real proof?" "None," Claire said, shaking her head. "Just accusations. They said I had altered some financial reports." Arthur murmured, stroking his chin. "Apex Corp, I've heard whispers, rumors of restructuring, of people being pushed out." A glimmer of hope flickered within Claire. Do you think it could be something more than just me?" "It's possible, Claire, very possible. Corporations often have their secrets." He paused, his eyes meeting hers. "I'm not promising anything, mind you, but I have a few contacts. I might be able to dig around, see what I can find." Claire's heart leapt. Would you really do that for me?" Arthur smiled. "Injustice is something I can't stand, Claire. Besides," he added with a wink, "a good story is hard to resist." But doubt still lingered. I don't know anything about investigations. I'm just a junior analyst. Arthur chuckled softly. Everyone starts somewhere, Claire, and you have something more important than experience. You have the truth on your side. That's a powerful weapon. He leaned forward, his gaze intense. Are you willing to fight for it? Claire hesitated. The fear remained, whispering insidious doubts. But now there was something else too, a flicker of resolve, a spark of hope. She looked at Arthur, his kind eyes reflecting belief in her. Yes, she said, her voice stronger now. Yes, I am. Good, Arthur said, a smile spreading across his face. Then let's get to work. First, tell me everything you know about those financial reports. He pulled out a notepad and pen, ready to listen. A wave of relief washed over Claire. She wasn't alone anymore. She had a mentor, an ally, someone who believed in her. As she began to recount the details of her work, a plan started to form in her mind. Still vague, still fragile, but there. She would clear her name, expose the truth, and Apex Corp wouldn't get away with destroying her life. Now, Arthur said, tapping his pen on the notepad, tell me about Sergio De Luca. Claire took a deep breath. Sergio De Luca. The name alone sent a shiver of anger and trepidation down her spine. He's the CFO, she began, her voice wavering slightly. Chief Financial Officer at Apex Corp. He's powerful. Arthur nodded, encouraging her to continue. Powerful how, Claire? In what way did he interact with you? He was always watching, she said, remembering the unsettling feeling of De Luca's gaze following her. He'd make comments, small things about my work ethic, my attention to detail. She paused, recalling a specific incident. Once, he stopped me in the hallway and said, Claire, you're a bright girl. Just make sure you're looking at the right numbers. Arthur's eyebrows furrowed. Looking at the right numbers? What did he mean by that? Claire shook her head, frustration evident. I don't know. At the time, I thought he was just being condescending. Now, I think he was warning me or testing me. He was testing you, Arthur agreed, his voice low. He likely knew about the discrepancies in the financial reports, and he wanted to see if you would notice them. Or if you would be complicit. Claire's stomach churned. Complicit? He thought I would help him cover something up? It's possible, Arthur said gently. Or he wanted to see if he could scare you into silence. Either way, he saw you as a potential problem. A surge of anger coursed through her. He had targeted her, manipulated her, and then discarded her like trash. He framed me, she said, her voice hardening. He set me up to take the fall for whatever he was doing. That's what we need to prove, Arthur said, his gaze intense. Tell me everything you know about De Luca, his habits, his routines, his relationships with other people in the company. Claire sifted through her memories. He always arrived early and left late. Meticulous about his appearance, impeccably dressed. He kept to himself mostly, but seemed close to Mr. Henderson, the CEO. Henderson, Arthur repeated, writing the name down. Interesting. And the financial reports? Any specific details about the discrepancies? Claire closed her eyes, trying to recall the numbers, the dates, the inconsistencies. Changes in revenue projections, inflated profits, things that didn't add up. I flagged them to my supervisor, but nothing was done. Arthur nodded. Did you keep any records? Copies of the original reports? Claire's heart sank. No, she admitted. I assumed they'd be taken care of. Naive. Don't beat yourself up, Arthur said kindly. You couldn't have known. But we need proof linking De Luca to the altered reports. They spent hours poring over Claire's memories, piecing together De Luca's actions. Arthur's probing questions guided her through her past. As she spoke, her resolve grew. No longer just a victim, she was an investigator, a fighter. As evening fell, Arthur suggested a break. He brewed tea, and they sat in comfortable silence. Okay, Arthur said. We have a starting point. De Luca's involved. Discrepancies existed. Now we need evidence. He spread a city map. Let's look at De Luca's background. Where did he come from? His associates? Connections? They traced De Luca's history, searching for clues, like finding a needle in a haystack. But Claire was determined. Suddenly Claire gasped. Wait, he's from Oak Creek. My aunt lives there. Arthur's eyes widened. Your aunt? Does she know De Luca? Maybe, Claire said, mind racing. Small town. Everyone knows everyone. A spark ignited. Maybe her aunt held a missing piece. We need to go to Oak Creek, Claire said, determined. Talk to my aunt. Arthur smiled. Then let's go. Sooner the better. Preparing to leave, Claire noticed a detail on the financial reports. A faint watermark. A stylized serpent. Arthur, she said, hushed. Look at this. Arthur examined the symbol. His eyes widened. "That's the serpent's hand," he said, surprised and concerned. "Notorious corporate raiders. Hostile takeovers, asset stripping." Claire's heart pounded. A larger conspiracy, bigger than she imagined. "What does this mean?" she asked, trembling. Arthur shook his head. "We're not just dealing with a corrupt CFO, Claire. Something much more dangerous." He paused, fixed on the watermark. "And we're in way over our heads." Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach. This wasn't just about her job. This was serious. "Over our heads," Claire repeated, barely a whisper. Arthur nodded grimly. "These people don't play nice. We need to be careful." He ran a hand through his thinning hair, a gesture betraying worry. "Going to Oak Creek is still right, though. We need to talk to your aunt. Any information she has could be crucial." The drive to Oak Creek felt longer. The scenery blurred, replaced by anxiety. Claire replayed interactions with DeLuca, searching for missed signs. Had she been too naive? "Don't beat yourself up," Arthur said, sensing her unease. "You couldn't have known. DeLuca is a manipulator." Claire managed a weak smile, comforting, but the weight pressed down. Arriving in Oak Creek, the town seemed smaller than remembered. Pine and damp earth filled the air. Her aunt's cottage, with its sprawling garden, looked like a haven. Her Aunt Martha greeted them warmly with cookies. "Claire, dear, so good to see you. And you must be Arthur." Martha was kind, gentle, sharp-minded. Claire admired her strength. "At the kitchen table," Claire explained, omitting Serpent's hand details to avoid alarming her. She focused on the injustice, the need to clear her name. Martha listened, her expression serious. "That DeLuca always seemed like a snake," she said, voice low. "Never trusted him." Claire's heart leaped. "Did you ever hear anything, Aunt Martha? Anything that might help?" Martha paused, brow furrowed. "Well, there was that land deal a few years back. Investors lost money. Whispers of DeLuca's involvement, but nothing proven." She continued. "There was also a man, Mr. Henderson, who used to come into the diner. Apex Corp, I believe. Always seemed nervous, hiding something." "Mr. Henderson?" Arthur asked, ears perked. "Did he ever say anything specific about DeLuca or the company?" Martha shook her head. "Not really, but always seemed uncomfortable when DeLuca's name came up, almost afraid." Claire and Arthur exchanged a look, more than they'd hoped for. "Mr. Henderson could be key." As they left, Martha stopped Claire. "Be careful, dear," she said, concerned. "Sounds dangerous. Don't take risks." Claire hugged her aunt tightly. "I won't. Thank you, Aunt Martha. You've been a great help." Back in the car, Arthur scribbled furiously. "Mr. Henderson," he muttered. "We need to find him." Suddenly, Claire's phone rang. An unknown number. Hesitantly, she answered. "Hello?" A raspy voice sent a chill down her spine. "Back off, Claire. You're digging where you shouldn't be. Drop it or you'll regret it." The line went dead. Claire stared, hand trembling. Fear paralyzed her. They were being watched, in danger. "What was that?" Arthur asked, sharp with concern. Claire told him, voice shaking. Arthur's face hardened. "They're trying to scare us, but we can't let them. We're too close." He looked at Claire, determined. "We need to find Mr. Henderson fast. But first, we need to make sure we aren't being followed." As Arthur pulled back onto the highway, Claire noticed a dark sedan keeping a steady distance. Tinted windows hid the occupants. "Arthur," Claire whispered, "I think we're being followed." Arthur glanced in the rearview mirror, jaw tightening. "Hold on tight, Claire." He slammed the accelerator and the car lurched forward. The chase was on. Unbeknownst to them, in the sedan, Sergio watched with cold satisfaction as his men pursued Claire and Arthur. He knew they were getting close and wouldn't hesitate to eliminate any threat to his empire. He dialed a number. "Make sure they don't talk," he said, voice laced with menace. "And make sure it looks like an accident." Sarah felt her heart hammering. Claire was in trouble. Real trouble. She clutched her phone, fighting back tears. She had to do something. Inside the speeding car, Claire gripped the dashboard. The sedan gained. Arthur weaved, knuckles white on the wheel. "They won't give up," he muttered. "Sergio wants us silenced." Claire's mind raced. Sergio. It all pointed back to him. The threats, the sabotage. "We have to get to Mr. Henderson," she said, voice tight with fear. "He's our only hope." Arthur nodded grimly. "I know a place. Diner just off the highway. We can lose them there. Regroup." The diner appeared, a beacon in the dusk. Arthur swung into the parking lot, tires squealing. They jumped out and hurried inside, the bell jingling, a stark contrast to their fear. The diner was almost empty. Arthur led Claire to a booth in the back, away from the windows. "Stay here," he said, scanning the parking lot. "I'll see if I can spot them." Claire sank into the booth, legs trembling. Despair washed over her. Were they close to the truth or digging their graves? Arthur returned, grim. They're out there, waiting. Just then, Claire's phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Leave Oak Creek now, it's not safe for you. Fear turned to dread. They knew everything, watching their every move. Arthur, she whispered, showing him the message. They're everywhere. Arthur's jaw tightened. We can't back down now, Claire. We've come too far. He looked at her, determined. We need to find Henderson. He holds the key. He pulled out his laptop, typing furiously. I'm going to try to track down Henderson's last known address. Maybe we can find him before they do. Claire watched him, heart pounding. Guilt surged. She had dragged Arthur into this. He was risking his life for her. Arthur, she said softly, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. Arthur stopped typing, his eyes gentle. This isn't your fault, Claire. You're fighting for what's right, and I'm here to help you. He smiled reassuringly. Besides, I haven't had this much excitement in years. Claire managed a weak smile, but inside fear gnawed. Suddenly the diner door burst open, and a man in a dark suit strode in, scanning the room. Claire's breath caught. It was one of the men from the sedan. Arthur, she whispered, trembling. He's here. Arthur slammed his laptop shut and stood, blocking Claire. Can I help you? He asked, calm but firm. The man's eyes narrowed. I'm looking for someone, a woman, and an older gentleman. Claire felt panic. They were trapped. Just then, the waitress stepped forward. We don't want any trouble here, she said, surprisingly strong. This is a family diner. You need to leave. The man glared, but something in her unwavering gaze gave him pause. He hesitated, then turned and walked out, slamming the door. Claire and Arthur exchanged a look of disbelief, spared for now, but they knew it wouldn't last. We have to go, Arthur said, grabbing his laptop. Now. As they slipped out the back, Claire felt a flicker of hope. Survived another close call. But Sergio wouldn't give up. He would keep coming until they were silenced. The fight was far from over. They drove through the night, headlights cutting through darkness. Arthur found a possible address for Mr. Henderson, a rundown motel on the outskirts. A long shot, but all they had. Pulling up to the motel, Claire felt foreboding. Deserted. Lifeless. This felt like a trap. Arthur parked and turned to Claire. Grim. Be careful. This could be dangerous. They approached cautiously, Arthur leading, hand on the doorknob. He took a breath and threw the door open. The room was empty. The bed unmade, a suitcase open on the floor, contents scattered. Someone had left in a hurry. Claire felt disappointment. They had come so far, only to find nothing. Suddenly, a floorboard creaked behind them. They spun around, hearts pounding. Standing in the doorway was a figure shrouded in shadow. Looking for someone, a voice rasped. Before they could react, a hand shot out, shoving Arthur against the wall. Claire screamed as a figure lunged, steel glinting. The world tilted. Then, blackness. Sarah felt her heart sink. Claire, Arthur, silence. She had to find them. Claire gasped, head throbbing. Disoriented, she blinked, trying to focus. Rough concrete pressed against her cheek. A warehouse? Dust and decay filled the air. Arthur. Where was Arthur? Panic surged. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her arm. She was tied to a chair. Arthur, she croaked, voice raw. A figure emerged from the shadows. Sergio. He smiled, cruel, satisfied. Welcome back, Claire, he said, smooth and menacing. I was beginning to think you'd lost your nerve. Claire struggled, heart pounding. What do you want, Sergio? What I want is for you to disappear, he replied, smile widening. You and your little journalist friend. You've become quite the nuisance. He gestured to the corner. Claire's breath caught. Arthur lay slumped, face bruised and bloody. Arthur, she cried, voice cracking. He's just resting, Sergio said dismissively. He'll wake up eventually. Unless, of course, you decide to cooperate. Claire's mind raced. She had to protect Arthur, find a way out. What do you want me to do? She asked, voice trembling. Simple, Sergio said, leaning closer. I want you to confess. Confess to everything. The sabotage, the lies, and then you'll disappear. Forever. Tears welled. He was destroying everything. Her reputation. Arthur's career. I won't do it, she whispered. Sergio chuckled. You don't have a choice, Claire. This is the end. He walked away, leaving Claire alone with fear and despair. Time stretched into eternity. Claire strained, muscles screaming. She had to get free, help Arthur. But she was weak, defeated. Sergio had won. She closed her eyes, tears streaming. She had failed, let Arthur down, let everyone down. Suddenly, anger washed over her. At Sergio for his cruelty, At herself, for being naive. She wouldn't give up. She wouldn't let him win. She strained again, determined. She had to find a way. Just as despair threatened to engulf her, a buzzing filled the air. Her phone. She had kept it hidden. With trembling fingers, she maneuvered towards her pocket, heart pounding. A message, an unknown number. Don't give up. There's still hope. Meet me at the old clock tower downtown. Midnight. Sarah felt anxiety tighten. Claire was out there, and every second felt like a lifetime. She paced, rereading Arthur's notes. The phone rang, startling her. A number she didn't recognize. Hesitantly, she answered. Hello? A distorted voice spoke. The information you need. It's at Apex Corp security office, file marked Project Nightingale. Get it. Expose Sergio. The line went dead. Sarah's heart pounded. Project Nightingale. Ominous. But a lead. She grabbed her keys and rushed out. Meanwhile, at the warehouse, Claire's fingers fumbled with the lock. The message echoing. Don't give up. There's still hope. Meet me at the old clock tower downtown. Midnight. Midnight. Hours away. Arthur groaned beside her, stirring. Claire? He mumbled, voice weak. I'm here, Art, she whispered, relief flooding her. Just hang on. She loosened the ropes, freeing one hand. Working quickly, she untied Arthur. He leaned against her, pale. Sergio, he gasped. He has to be stopped. I know, Claire said, firm. And we will stop him. The warehouse door creaked open. Sergio strode in, smug. Well, well, look who decided to play Houdini, he chuckled. You really thought you could escape, Claire? Claire stood tall, shielding Arthur. It's over, Sergio. I know what you've done. Sergio's smile faltered. You know nothing. Project Nightingale, Claire stated, the words hanging. I know about the illegal investments, the falsified reports, everything. Sergio's face turned crimson. Who told you that? It doesn't matter, Claire said, voice gaining strength. What matters is that the truth will come out. Just then, a siren wailed. Sergio's eyes widened. He glanced at the door, then back at Claire. This isn't over, he snarled. Not by a long shot. He turned and fled, disappearing into the night. Claire helped Arthur up. The sirens grew louder. Soon the warehouse swarmed with police. As they were led out, Arthur squeezed Claire's hand. How you did it, Claire, he said, a weak smile. You saved us. Days later, the news exploded. Sarah, acting on the tip, had found the files detailing Sergio's fraud. The evidence was irrefutable. Sergio De Luca was dismissed and arrested. Claire's name was cleared. No longer a suspect, but a victim. The relief was immense. Yet, amidst the celebration, emptiness lingered. She had won. But at what cost? The experience had shaken her. The old Claire was gone. One evening, watching the sunset, Claire reflected. She had been betrayed, kidnapped, nearly killed, but discovered strength she never knew. A fire had been lit, a desire to prevent similar injustice. She thought about others trapped, victims of greed and abuse, the fear and desperation they must feel, the feeling of being alone. That's when the idea struck. She would use her experience, her strength, to help them. Create a safe haven where victims could find support, guidance, and resources to fight back. A smile spread across Claire's face. The emptiness faded, replaced by purpose. She stood, eyes shining. She knew what to do. The Fresh Start Project, a foundation for victims of workplace injustice. Her nightmare became the catalyst for something meaningful. It was time to turn pain into purpose. Claire felt purpose swelling as she sat at her new desk in a sun-drenched office. The Fresh Start Project was tangible. Arthur, surprisingly spry, reviewed brochures. Sarah, ever energetic, coordinated volunteers and pro bono legal aid. The initial days were a flurry. Claire, drawing on her experiences, crafted workshops to empower victims. She shared her story, the fear, the betrayal, the triumph. Her voice, once hesitant, now resonated. She spoke of resilience, finding strength in vulnerability, and the importance of solidarity. They tried to silence me, she would say, eyes blazing, but they only made me stronger, and now we will be a voice for those who have been silenced. The response was overwhelming. People poured in, drawn by Claire's authenticity and the promise of a haven. Some were angry, some broken, but all searching for hope. Claire listened, offering comfort, a hand, and a reminder that they were not alone. One afternoon, Maria approached Claire, eyes filled with tears. Maria had been unjustly fired after reporting unsafe conditions. She felt defeated, convinced no one would believe her. Claire took Maria's hand. I believe you, she said softly, and we will fight for you. With the help of the Fresh Start Project, Maria sued her former employer. Claire connected her with a skilled attorney. After months, Maria won. She received compensation, and the factory addressed the conditions. Maria's victory was a testament to the Fresh Start project and Claire's dedication. It was also a turning point. More people came forward, emboldened by Maria's story. Meanwhile, authorities searched for Sergio, who had vanished, leaving behind shattered lives. Claire knew he would be brought to justice, but her focus was on building a better world. One evening, as Claire prepared to leave, Arthur stopped her, holding a photograph. "I almost forgot. Remember the anonymous source?" Well, she finally came forward. Claire took the photograph, a woman she vaguely recognized from Apex Corp, Emily, a low-level data analyst. Emily had risked everything to expose Sergio, driven by justice and a desire to protect colleagues. Claire felt gratitude. Emily's bravery had been instrumental. She knew the Fresh Start project wouldn't have been possible without her. As months turned into years, the Fresh Start project thrived. Claire became a sought-after speaker, sharing her story. She inspired others to stand up for their rights. She never forgot the pain, but refused to let it define her. Instead, she used it as a catalyst, transforming tragedy into a force for good. One day, Claire received an invitation to speak at a conference on corporate ethics. She hesitated, unsure if she was ready. But then she thought of Maria, of Emily, and of all the others helped by the Fresh Start project. She had a responsibility to speak out, to inspire others to do the right thing. Standing on stage, looking at the audience, Claire felt peace and purpose. She was no longer the quiet analyst unjustly accused. She was a leader, an advocate, a beacon of hope. "We all have a voice," she said, voice ringing, "and we must use it to speak truth to power. We must fight for justice, for equality, and for a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect." The audience applauded. Claire smiled, knowing she had found her calling. She had transformed pain into purpose, creating a legacy of hope and empowerment. Years later, Claire stood in the garden of the Fresh Start project, surrounded by blooming flowers. She watched children play, their laughter filling the air. They were the children of those helped by the foundation, growing up in a world where justice and compassion were valued. Claire knew her journey had been long, but worth it. She had faced her demons, overcome fears, and emerged stronger. She had found her voice, her purpose, her place. As the sun set, casting a golden glow, Claire closed her eyes and took a breath. She felt gratitude, peace, and profound joy. She had come full circle, from victim to victor, from darkness to light. She had not only survived, but thrived, and inspired countless others to do the same. The Fresh Start project was more than a foundation. It was a testament to resilience, solidarity, and the strength of the human spirit. And Claire Thompson, the once quiet analyst, was its heart and soul. Her journey was complete. The elixir, the knowledge that even the deepest wounds can be transformed into sources of strength and hope, was now shared with the world, a legacy etched in the lives she had touched and the future she had helped to build. Her world was forever changed, brighter, more compassionate, and infinitely more hopeful.